Alright, let's proceed to our grid layout. So what are we going to create now is a container using the grid layout. Okay, so we have to select the grid layout. So I'm gonna go over to our page that we are already customizing or designing. So to get started, so where is my button? So right here, I'm gonna open the dashboard again and go to the pages, all pages, and to our home front page. So right now I've already opened that particular page. So what I'm going to do now is delete every uh, container that we have just made from the previous lesson so that it will not make us some confusion in the grade discussion. So right now I'm gonna open again this particular button and choose the grid. So as you can see, we have different types of grid. So let us check the difference between the two. So I'm gonna click this one first with two columns. Okay, so right now as you can see, I have no option to select the container, or what we can say the division, the div that we can adjust the elements. But let's try. So I'm gonna click and hit the add element and just select the heading. Okay, so right here as you can see, let's add another one so that we can understand how this works. All right, so as you can see right now, we are not able to adjust, okay, the what we call the container inside the section. So as you can see, we have now two elements inside this particular section. And for you to understand what are the default names of these things, so let's just go ahead to this particular structure right here, and you will see that we have now the grid section. Okay, so in HTML and even in the CSS, we used to call this particular part as section and div. So right now, whenever I say section, so that you will not get confused later on, so we will have the definition of terms right away. As you can see, when I click this one, so it shows container. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and select the flex box so that you will know what I am talking about. So right here, when we click this one, you see container again, the term container. Right now, if you're going to click this one, container, and then this one, container, so this will get us confused later on if we work on different containers. So I'm gonna call this one, this particular part, the one that contains everything, as the section. Okay, so sometimes I would use the word division or div. Okay, because whatever we put inside would determine if we're going to just put some buttons right here or any icons inside the elements or inside the container. If only buttons and icons, we can call it div, the whole section, this part. Okay, so this particular yes, so we will call this div sometimes, but usually I will call this section. Okay, so if you are working as a web developer already and you have the basics of the HTML and CSS, you will understand why I call this section or sometimes div. Okay, so when I say section, it contains useful information like title, text, images. So I always call those elements as part of a section, because section means it has information. Okay, so the reason why we call this a section, and in HTML we put the tag as section, because it contains information. So it's like a book. We have pages, right, in a book, and the book has sections. So a book contains a lot of information, so that they were called sections or parts, or yes, parts. While div is just only a division or a divided section, or yes, something like that, and it doesn't contain any information that would allow Google to what you call this, to index the page or the section as a useful information. So to get started, I'm gonna use the section whether we are going to put anything inside. Okay, I hope you understand that. Okay, all right, so I'm gonna erase this one, and we will use the term section whenever I click this, sometimes div. Okay, so when I click this particular part, I will call this container. Okay, and the elements inside that I put here, I will call elements. Okay, so please remember these three: section or division or div, and then the other one is the container, which is inside the section, and then the last one is, sorry, the elements. Okay, so I hope you get that. Okay, please remember that. Okay, so I'm gonna close this again so that we will have no problems. And if you're following me just right, after I do it, and you following me, sometimes you might get frustrated when I delete something, because you are going to delete yours too. But we are going to do that so that we we can minimize confusion regarding using the elements and the section. So going back, because we are talking about the grid, so I'm gonna select the grid and choose first the two columns, or let's say two containers inside the section. So right now, as you can see, we cannot click any container right here. The container is not visible, and we can only do is add elements. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and create elements, and then add new, let's say text editor, and I'm gonna add more here inside this particular section. Okay, so let's try and add, let's say, a button inside this title element. So as you can see, we now have the four containers, or let's say we can add four elements inside. Okay, can we switch these two? So I will drag this particular heading to this part, but as you can see, it doesn't move. So I'm gonna click this button right here and exchange it to the position of the heading. So now we have swapped the two elements. So you will see that it is highlighted when we drag the elements. So right there. So this is the grid layout. So you can change the orientation or the position of each element as you wish. Okay, so I'm gonna put another container, probably this one icon. All right, so now we have four elements inside this particular section. So I'm just going to hide the menu, the elements menu, and let's see how it looks. Okay, so let's check the mobile view. So as you can see, it is still not organized, and it's a bit off, because we have put no design first. So I'm going to add more section, and we'll select this particular part, because as you can see, it's a bit different than the others. So as you can see, we can add more elements inside this one, and let's try and add a title, or sorry, the text editor and a button. Okay, so now they are under that particular section. We have 3 elements in vertical position, while here in the first section we have the proportional parts inside the section. So the reason why we use this section instead separating them in each section, because we can add one simple element, right? As you can see, as I have demonstrated in the first design of our homepage, I'm gonna just drag this like this, click and drag this, and it will just open up itself, and it has a different section. Okay, so as you can see, this particular section has vertical elements in it, while this one only have one. This one, yes, that's right. So if you are in a hurry, if you want to finish your job soonest possible, I just click and add elements in the vacant position. So as you can see, it has different sections. Okay, but the problem with this is if you are going to try to what we call this, edit and modify the element, it will take you time to edit them, because you have to separately modify these 2 sections. Unlike with this one, if you're going to put some padding or margin, the spaces outside the elements, and to do that, you're going to click the section first, this one, and then go to the advanced and put some margins. As you can see, you can be able to modify the margin of the 4 elements. Padding, let's try. So as you can see, all right, so they are all affected by the padding because we have selected the section. I like this one. If we are going to, where's that? To modify, if you want to modify these 2, but we have 2 separate sections, so you have to click first this one and adjust the padding if you like. So it only affects the particular element inside of that section. This is good if we are planning to make some design using the particular element. Only the particular element should be affected. Okay, and also you can also drag this one inside that particular section if you want to. If you have changed your mind and you don't want to use the additional section, you just delete it. But of course you have to transfer first the elements to that particular section. Okay, so one more time, let's do the grid, and as you can see, we have here the 6 columns, or let's say rows and columns or container. So we can add more right here. So let's try before we end this particular lesson. So I'm gonna use the video on the first one, and then next we are gonna add more. Let's say text editor, and then the button. Where's the button? Right there, and you can see another column, or let's say container appears. So we're gonna put some images right here, and with the grid and even the flex box, you can see the arrangement is already been fixed. So what I mean to say is that you don't need to resize each container, because it is by default is been set already. Okay, so I'm gonna put another video right here to show you what Elementor can do in a particular section. So right there. So now we have two different types of layouts, which are the flexbox and the grid. Okay, so you should try this one, and later on we're gonna delete this also. But I encourage you, after you have seen this particular lesson, is to move your way around and familiarize yourself how to use the two layout, that is the flexbox and the grid, and do some experimentation, explore using the elements that I have shown you. Okay, and don't forget to publish if you like to publish. Right, this one I'm gonna publish this one so that we will have the effect to be seen on the actual page. Okay, so I'm gonna reload this one. As you can see, we now have the new format of our home page. So whenever you type this, if you are using a domain, if you are hosting a website on a web hosting, and you want to see the actual page, I encourage you to open a new tab using the incognito window, and just paste your domain or your URL, and you will see the actual page without the Elementor or the WordPress dashboard. So I always use this whenever I make designs, so that I will be able to see the actual page that I'm working without the elements or the dashboard or anything else, only the page itself. Okay, so this is the actual design that we have just made right now. Okay, so of course it is not final, and I'm just showing you the good things about Elementor and how easy to use it. All right, so we're gonna go back to our slides so we can finish this lesson and proceed to the next. All right, see you on the next lesson. Bye bye.